Now, why is RuneScape so popular?
The year is 2005, the month February. The world is rocking out to 50 Cent's Candy Shop. George W. Bush is just starting his second term after defeating every terrorist in hand to hand combat. But more importantly, it's my birthday. And like many 10-year-old boys on their birthdays, I was having a sleepover with my best friends. My dad gave us his laptop so we could play Flash games on Newgrounds and
This is gonna be him finding it, isn't it? This is gonna be him finding RuneScape.
games like The Impossible Quiz and Kiss Britney Spears by Bobby. That night, we also went to
Who's Bobby?
a website that, among its sea of half-baked games, was a small box promoting something called RuneScape. So we clicked the link, created an account, and started playing. Little did I know that the next 2 decades of my life would be defined in large part by this little browser-based MMORPG.
Not mine. Not me. Couldn't be me personally. I love the game. Don't get me wrong. I love it a lot. I love it. But not that fucking much, man.
And despite years of amazing games coming out that pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible graphically or through storytelling, I keep coming back to this game that, in the year of our Lord 2024, looks like this.
And I love it for it. Okay? People don't realize that graphics only matter if you're a fucking dipshit, okay? I don't know if I'm hating too hard by saying this, but I just think that there are a lot of games that have been super popular, and if you go on the list of like best selling games ever, you're gonna see fucking Minecraft, you're gonna see fucking Tetris, and man, I mean, maybe one day you'll see old school RuneScape, but I don't think that the sales work the same way because it's a live service game and whatnot. Either way, I mean, graphics can be a limiting factor. If you look at something like Dwarf Fortress, that whole game is predicated on that idea. And it's hard to get into, it's incomprehensible, but fuck, man, is that not a deep game? I mean, it's honestly not even a game, it's more of like a simulator. But I think if we ignore the graphics, or honestly, if we keep certain systems simple, it can be fun games. I'm not a big fan of taking systems in games and then like paring them down. Todd Howard is probably the biggest example of this that I can think of. If you look at the systems in Morrowind, the systems in Oblivion, and the systems in Skyrim, and then honestly, you can do the same thing with Fallout, that's his MO. He is paring down, he's cutting branches off of the tree being the gameplay map, the possible gameplay loops that your game could have, different options, variation. You got blunt weapons, you got warhammers, you got fucking blades, you got different kinds of blades, you got short blade, long blade. Now we got blade and blunt. Okay, now we have basically heavy and light, essentially. I mean, we can pretend it's one-handed and two-handed. That is a gameplay definition for these are your heavy weapons, these are your light weapons. They don't make that same distinction for the armor, but it's the same distinction. And I think like if the fundamental loop of the game was built to be simple, it can be amazing, right? I love Balatro. We're going to be playing Balatro later on in the stream. And it's a very simple game functionally. RuneScape is a very simple game functionally, but they do what they do really, really well, and they're focused on like the gameplay experience, and that's why people keep coming back to these games. And it's also why I think if you want to play a game with great graphics and graphics are the reason you want to play a game, you're kind of fucking stupid because you could just go outside or watch a movie. I feel this way about fantasy as well, just fantasy in general, because a lot of fantasy is kind of just shittier than the real world. That's why I like One Piece, because it feels hyper realistic. That's what fantasy is supposed to feel like. It has fantastical elements that don't quite make sense, that add to the story. It's a better story for it. But anyway,
game that, in the year of our Lord 2024, looks like this. And I'm not alone. This game is more popular than it's ever been. New content is coming out at a faster pace than it ever has.
And the main game is dying, which is the even crazier part. That people love the way that this game is run. They love the voting system so much that the main game is having trouble competing with it. I stopped playing the main game in probably 2011, maybe? And this fucking game sucked me back in. I pay for more than one membership because I'm cringe.
And all I can think to myself as I partake in it is, why?
I have asked this question so much. The problem is, it's very hard to explain this in a way that people who haven't played RuneScape will have any idea what the fuck you're even talking about. I have tried explaining it to my girlfriend, and it's just, they don't get it. It's so far off the beaten path that your average Joe who's not a gamer is not going to be able to understand what the fuck this is. And it makes it harder when they're the people making these videos are people with super intimate knowledge of the game that love the game and love certain things about it. It makes it very hard to actually talk about it in a way that will make sense to outsiders because we have such an intimate knowledge of it.
Seriously, why is a game that
Is he wearing green pants, bro? What is that? Why are his pants green, man? Why did he pulled up with the green screen chroma key to match the pants fucking... Oh my god.
Itself is a re-release of a game that is 17 years old, not only surviving, but thriving. If you just take a surface look at this game, you're probably just gonna be more confused unless you've played it before.
Yup.
And if you have played it before, you might still be really confused. Like,
Many people
what do people
also
see
have
in
that
this?
experience.
This is a question that's been plaguing my mind and the mind of my lovely Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, by the way, guys. You're seriously so awesome. And if you want to support, you can do so for as little as $1 a month. Got the link in the description. Whoa. With old school RuneScape, obviously the graphics are dated. It doesn't take a PhD in psychology to see that. Is that the right PhD? I don't know. But even when it comes to character progression, even the littlest things will take hours, and some of the longer grinds can take days, and with a bit of bad luck, even months of just doing the same content over and over and over again. But the player...
That part, people aren't even ready to comprehend when they get into the game. And by the time they understand what they've gotten themselves in for, it's too deep, man. I've seen it happen.
Player count keeps going up. Look how high up I am. There's so much room below me because the player count is so high. And I'm one of those players. What's wrong with me? I think it only gets crazier when you look at the rest of the MMORPG industry, which are supposed to be old school RuneScape's competitors. Most of these games are fast-paced, action-packed.
Yeah. I can't speak very much for other MMOs, especially like modern ones, you know, Final Fantasies and the WoWs. But they're a lot more of a traditional gaming experience. I mean, I don't know. As someone who can understand what is happening in old school RuneScape, I can't fucking look at WoW ability bar and be like, oh, this is a thing that makes sense. Like, I'm sorry, man. I can't do it. I can't even do Dota. I'm too stupid for that.
Packed games that bring at least something from mainstream AAA titles to the table. Final Fantasy XIV has one of the best stories of any MMORPG, and it's a major reason players keep coming back to it. World of Warcraft has the smoothest combat system and a challenging but rewarding endgame that other MMOs have tried to emulate for decades. New World exists, I think, but old school RuneScape sits in its own little niche, using the same basic systems it released with back in 2001. You point, click, and wait. There's no other abilities or hotbars. You aren't doing thousands of damage with crazy finishing moves. You just chop a tree and wait. Or you fish for sharks and wait. Or you cook a monster and wait. I mean, you would have to be at least a little crazy.
But that's what's good about it. That's what's good about it. That's why the game's good, man. It's different. It makes you wait. Every little number has to go up by a tiny little amount, you know? It's going up by maximum 10,000, and that's like a quest reward, you know? And to get to max level in any of these skills is 13 million. 13 million. So it is a fucking slow paced grind, but it's better for it. And it's better for the way it does it, the way it holds back, makes you wait,
Crazy to
edges you.
make a game like this today. But that's exactly what makes it so special. There's nothing like it today. Old school RuneScape has, since its inception originally in 2001, basically done the opposite of what someone would think an MMO should do. Wait, hold on. Are you even listening to what I'm saying right now?
No,
Eyes up here, buddy.
I have brain rot.
I see. You're distracted by my awesome shirt. That makes sense, because it's from today's sleeve guy. Listen to I find actually the logo. Description get for a little bit, okay? When you launch the game, you're placed in a very hand-holdy tutorial that
Don't ask me why I'm able to do that and how I can just cut through an ad right to the end. I always know when it's an ad and I always know where they're going to end. I just am really good at... Oh, it's actually marked in the chapter. I didn't realize. Well, I didn't see it. I'm just like a beast, but...
teaches some of the very basic mechanics of the game. You learn how to run, and mine, and cook food, and fight until you're eventually teleported to the main city of Lumbridge, and that's it. Go forth and create your own adventure or something, I don't know. In other games, you'd usually be given a quest to go speak to some other NPC who will immediately give you another quest, or you just spawn next to a quest giver and go from there. But in this game, you're not given any of that. Sure, not far from you are several easy quests that'll get you started, but they don't lead you anywhere new or force you to train skills up. In every sense, you are left to your own devices to discover the world around you in your own way. And let's be clear, this should suck. In any MMO,
It kind of does. You know, it depends on the type of person you are. I could understand why you wouldn't want to do that.
RPG, if you aren't sufficiently motivated by your next immediate goal or working towards some longer-term milestone, you're gonna get bored and quit. And when I asked people on Twitter who never...
I saw this tweet. I don't think I replied to it, but I definitely saw it, and I was like, huh, I wonder what that's for. Now I know what it's for.
played RuneScape back in the day for their thoughts on old school RuneScape, I saw a lot of this exact sentiment. Like Twinleaf, who said he had no idea where to go or what to do, so he just gave up. Or Sawman UK, who said, hold on, let me try and do a good British accent here.
I tried to play it last year and again this year and didn't get past the hour mark. Hope that helps.
But I think old school RuneScape
Bro,
can get away
did
with
he-
this for
what?
one major reason. It's really damn simple. Don't get me wrong, RuneScape's an extremely deep game, but on the surface, it's about as simple as it looks. You want to get some woodcutting levels? Chop literally like any tree. Just go ahead, click, and just wait. And
But
the first
why?
few quests will come up.
Most people's question is why. That's the thing. You know, you're putting the cart before the horse. It's the Minecraft problem. I remember when Minecraft first came out, people were like, but what's like, how do you win? And I was like, you build cool shit, man. It's like fucking Legos. This is more like it's like an RPG flavored sandbox.
Across like Cook's Assistant are really, really simple. Everything you need to complete them is within a 30-second walk of the starting area, so it doesn't get any easier than this. But again, that's the strength of the game. Old School RuneScape presents you and its new players with an entire sandbox in a massive world and doesn't give you any other direction than just play? But since it's so simple to figure out how to do the most basic actions in the game, that actually works to its benefit. Once you take those first few steps out into the world, you're off, and there's nothing in your way. Eventually the game does get more complicated, like the quests you'll find will have certain prerequisites, like maybe you need a certain thieving level before you can start it, or even you have to have completed enough quests beforehand to start this quest. But by that
And that requirement's actually especially cool because it's not a hard, you gotta do this quest. No, it's like a you have to do quests. You know, we have these points, and you just got to get enough points, man. You haven't put in the rep. We don't know you. It's the same thing they do in Morrowind, and people fucking love that. Or at least they love it there.
At that point, you've already learned what you need to figure out how to make that progress. And if you haven't, then you've already probably learned where to look to find out. Fights with monsters will evolve from simple click and wait battles to encounters where you need to have an inventory full of food, better gear, and maybe even higher stats to unlock things like protection prayers. The game never tells you to get 43 prayers so you can block all incoming melee damage, or to get 30 defense so you can wear adamant armor. It doesn't have to. The early game is essentially its own tutorial because you'll more than likely be able to figure out everything you need to for yourself while staying completely immersed. Hell, the entire game is basically one long tutorial disguised as an MMORPG. You don't even realize it as it's happening, but
Yeah, that's why the talent gap between like your first character and your second character is just so different, you know? Like you go into any piece of content and it's just a learning experience. That's all it is. It's basically just a huge learning check. Can you learn on the fly? Can you learn if you got a video pulled up? You know, whatever your method is, RuneScape will always give you a new thing and you got to do it slightly differently. And eventually, you know, maybe people have the skills now that the guys who play this game are fucking 35. We can develop and grow and see the map as grid, and we're playing a rhythm game and we can feel the ticks in our fucking heart. You know, we're a human metronome and shit. But for the most part, on your first go around, you're not going to get to that point. I don't even know if the average person will ever get to that point. I probably won't.
you're learning how this game and how this world works. By the time you've reached the mid-game, when you've progressed a lot of your individual skills and started taking on more difficult quests, you'll be introduced to the next way old school RuneScape encourages you to lose yourself in the game. You'll get sidetracked. You might get sidetracked by something simple, like maybe you want to kill lizardmen for your Slayer task, but those very lizardmen drop a clue scroll. A clue scroll is basically a treasure map that takes you through a series of riddles until you find the treasure. The answers to the riddle could be simple, like you have to talk to an NPC back in Lumbridge where you started, or maybe you have to dig along the bank of a river. But some of these clues will have certain requirements to be completed, like this one that requires you to perform an emote in the fishing.
How does he tie this back into the game to like why people play it?
Guild. And that's when you realize that to get in the fishing guild, you need 68 fishing. And you never trained your fishing because fishing is for nerds. And you're not a nerd. You're a normal person who watches video essays about a point and click MMORPG.
Yeah, I am. I am. I am a fucking nerd.
But if you want to complete this clue scroll, it's time to get catching. Maybe you decide it's time to look up how to train fishing efficiently. I mean, after all, you want this done as quickly as possible to get back to your Slayer task. And maybe you find a guide that recommends wearing the Angler set, which is gear that boosts your fishing XP by a marginal amount. That's bad advice, but you know, maybe it's out there. So eventually you find yourself in the fishing trawler minigame.
Yeah, I'm skilling outfit's biggest fucking hater. Me personally, I am skilling outfit's biggest hater, and I'll tell you why. I hate skilling outfits because they're kind of annoying to get. I feel like a chump because I don't want to get them, so I don't have them. And you're getting yourself maximum, you're saving, I think it's like 300,000 XP over the course of your whole training. I'll do the extra 2 hours of fucking fishing if it means I don't have to do this yee ass mini game.
So that you can start working on the Angler set, so that you can start working on getting 68 fishing, so that you can get into the fishing guild, so you can continue doing this clue scroll.
Okay, but that's how he ties it back in. That is something that is true, but I don't know if people who don't play this game will understand what he's talking about. There's a really good video. I forget the name of it, but it's a 3 hour long fucking YouTube essay about RuneScape, and I think it's titled something similar to this. It is basically like a PowerPoint presentation, But one thing the guy goes into that I noticed while playing the game, but I didn't really notice it when I I didn't really think about it until I watched the video. That was the fractal nature of everything in RuneScape. It's essentially a constant spiral of just more and more and more and more stuff. And things, it looks like a fractal, you know, things branch out onto other things. Here, wait. You look at a fractal and you can just keep zooming in more and more and more, and you will always go deeper, you know? Every little one of these things, you can zoom in on it and it'll have a whole branch of its own like that. They all do. This is how RuneScape works. You want to do something, and then you have to, you know, learn another skill to figure that out, and then you have to learn another skill to figure that out, and then you have to level this to do that, and you got to get a clue scroll, and you got to do this quest so that you can get the step for the clue scroll, and you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into the spiral. And that's basically the conceit of the game is you have goals over here and you have ways to complete them over here, but it is not a linear progression system. It is in the physical sense that your level, well, actually it's an exponential progression system in your leveling sense, because levels double every 7 levels, which is fucking absurd. The amount of XP you need to get to the next level doubles every 7 levels. But in terms of gameplay and, like, you know, the content of the game that you need to be exploring, it is all so perfectly interlinked in a way that you can do pretty much anything in the game at any given time and you will get some benefit from it that will probably help you out in the future. Now, not everything does, and there's more efficient ways to do things, but if you play Efficiency Scape, you're a fucking bigger dork than me. And I'm sitting behind a green screen, streaming to fucking 2 viewers. And those 2 viewers are my fucking alt and my phone.
Bruh.
Don't.
Do you even remember why you're doing this clue scroll? But after all that sidetracking...
Yeah, let's go back just to give you the context of why he's saying it in the video.
...as possible to get back to your Slayer task. And maybe you find a guide that recommends wearing the Angler set, which is gear that boosts your fishing XP by a marginal amount. That's bad advice, but, you know, maybe it's out there. So eventually you find yourself in the fishing trawler minigame so that you can start working on the Angler set, so that you can start working on getting 68 fishing, so that you can get into the fishing guild, so you can continue doing this clue scroll. Do you even remember why you're doing this clue scroll? But after all that sidetracking, you finally get your casket, which is basically a reward filled with goodies. It's a lot like a present if you think about it. A birthday present.
Oh.
Kind of like how my birthday is on February 22nd, if you want to mark it on your calendar or something.
Sorry, bro. My birthday's
before yours. This is an extremely tame example of sidetracking I described, by the way. It can and does get much deeper than this.
Yeah. It'll get pretty deep. I think, though, it kind of falls off that aspect of the game once you do your quest cape, because it's more of like a early mid-game kind of effect. Once you have established ways to train and you know you've exhausted all like the easy quests you could do to get your XP up for free, you're kind of like, whatever.
Anyone who has played RuneScape for any amount of time will attest to it. But this sidetracking all over the world and through multiple goals is just part of how the game keeps you hooked. You'll be working towards one of your long-term goals, but along the way, dozens of short-term goals will pop up naturally that will keep you...
Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect, that all these little steps are kind of giving you little sub-goals to do, which is probably the only way, like, that's the most rewarding way to accomplish things, at least in my opinion. I mean, look, that's how school's set up, and I think school is set up in a pretty rewarding way. You know, there are flaws, but assignments are a little bit, and then exams are like your big checks, and then fucking your grades are like the final checks, and those are all little sub breakdowns of the semester, and then the semesters are breakdowns of the whole degree.
You going, and most importantly, show you parts of the world you maybe hadn't been to before, because the world is fucking huge.
I think claims of RuneScape's size are overstated. It's not that big. It is a lot bigger than when you played as a kid, if you played back then, but It's not like that big. It's pretty fucking big. It's not Burnout Paradise or whatever that game, the racing game.
Like, seriously, look at all of this. It's insane.
It's pretty big.
And the worst part is that as I'm filming this, it's about to get bigger. So that's there you go. Even if you take away the fact that the whole time you're progressing your character numerically, you're also discovering a world and everything it has to offer as you get stronger. Like Wrinkle Lover says, this all adds up to make progression feel meaningful. And most importantly, it doesn't feel forced, because it's not. You're just following the flow of the game. This isn't only true for new players. Veteran players are constantly discovering new things about this game we've been playing for 2 decades for some of us.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of in favor of private servers, is I think if we can take RuneScape and turn it into like a platform like Roblox, you know, it would be better for it. Maybe the main game would be hurt a little bit, but the company would probably make more money. The game as a whole would be bigger, I think, and people would be more creative.
Anyone who's watched the Swampletics series knows how many insane discoveries Settled makes throughout the course of that journey. Yeah, it comes as a result of some crazy self-restrictions he put on himself, but still, it just shows how deep this all is.
That's the other thing. For YouTubers like Settled, private servers take self-imposed restriction and turn it into a playable thing that actually has stakes. Instead of it being essentially a role play for the sake of the YouTube video, it becomes real. You know, you went in the fucking code of the game and you changed the rules so you can't leave Mauritania or whatever.
And it's just so awesome that we can still be learning something new about a game that came out years and years and years ago. Like I've said multiple times already, this game is so simple, and that's why it gets away with being able to give you all of this right from the start and just let you run through it so you can learn as you go. It's a beautiful hands-off approach to getting players in the game that really is a relic of a past era, something I don't think we see very much at all anymore. If you look at games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, you'll almost always have a quest telling you exactly where to go, or even these markers on the ground that will tell you where to walk to get where you need to go.
Yeah, RuneScape don't do that. RuneScape don't teach you anything. RuneScape just gives you situations and you gotta react.
They will hold your hand the whole way through. Even RuneScape 3, the modern version of this ancient game, does this. Once you finish the tutorial, there are markers everywhere that will teach you how to train all sorts of skills, how to do combat.
I'm not gonna lie to you, chat. I installed RuneScape 3. I paid for an account already, so I have membership. I played for probably 25 minutes and then I was like, nah, I'd rather just be on my old school account.
And more. The devs are so worried about you getting lost that there's an obscene amount of guardrails around the world. Maybe that's the right move for those games. I mean, they are much more complicated right out the gate than old school RuneScape is. That's obvious. But for old school RuneScape, it just makes sense to be thrown into the world. It just feels right. Like I said before, there's nothing in your way of just starting your journey, whatever that journey may end up being. But one thing that journey will definitely be is really end up being nothing in your way of just starting your journey, whatever that journey may end up being. But one thing that journey will definitely...
Bro. What? Why does he got it on like that? And why does he have more green clothes fucking right next to him, man? What is this for later on in the video?
Is really long. If you didn't get bored in the first hour of playing, which, I mean, a lot of people do, then you'll inevitably encounter what old school RuneScape is truly known for. Grinds. If you don't know what grinds are, they're basically these things that skateboarders do where they like hop up on a rail and then they like skate down it, and it's worth a lot of points in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 if you do some combos off of it. So that's a little skateboard humor for you, just to lighten the mood. Speaking of skateboards, have you subscribed yet? Anyway, grinding is core to old school RuneScape's identity. It's the process of getting from where you are
What did that have to do with skateboards, man? Horrible segue. Also, he's getting his ass cooked by Jad. Someone had to say it, man. He's getting his ass pounded by, or he's getting his ass pounded by Zulra. I don't know if is it Jad phase.
Now to whatever goal you've set out for.
It is Jad phase. Okay, maybe that's why I thought it. That's why I thought it. Perfect recovery.
From 50 to 70 fire making, or getting 99 smithing, the maximum level, because you're a bit of a freak. It can even be the process of getting a drop from a monster, like the coveted Tanzanite Fang from Zulra, which has a 1 in 12 chance of dropping on any given kill. These grinds could range from taking a few hours to multiple weeks, and for the largest goals in the game, like maxing all of your skills,
it'll take you about as long as it would take you to get a fucking bachelor's degree to max. Maybe longer.
It can take years, but RuneScape players, me included, love it.
Our plans are measured in centuries, alright? Motherfuckers will be playing this game probably in the retirement home, okay? Motherfuckers will be playing this game in the grave.
And to be fair, what's not to love about getting something like 99 agility? You get to run on this sick-ass rooftop in a town called
Alright, listen. Agility is ass. But it does feel pretty good to be chilling and watching a show with my girlfriend and also playing RuneScape on my phone, just running laps, you know, just getting some XP in. It makes me feel better about watching a show. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just that cooked. Like, I'm that much of like a fucking brain rot zoomer. Maybe like that's just the reality, you know. I'm looking at fucking 2 screens right now, and I'm talking about buying more monitors. So I very well could be the brain rot king.
And when you finish a lap on it, you get all of this sweet XP.
It's Ardoin.
And then you get to do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah, did you see that number? That was 625 XP, and that's the XP drop he gets for completing the whole lap, which is the biggest one. He gets like 10 or 15 for each little obstacle, and he needs 13 million to not have to do this anymore.
And again, and again.
What do you get from it? You get a cape that doesn't do anything, and I think that's about it. Yeah, it doesn't really even help you out in the game that much. It's pretty marginal.
And again, and again, and again, and again. By the way, you unlock this course at level 90. Do you want to know how many times you have to do a lap on it to get to 99?
I'm going to say somewhere in the 10,000s. Maybe 22,000.
9,600.
I was way fucking over 9,000.
195 laps.
Okay.
That's how many times you have to do it to reach the maximum level. Does that sound crazy? It should, but for some people, even after they hit the maximum level, they keep going because they want to reach the maximum experience.
Yeah, dude, some motherfuckers are that crazy. They want to tap it out. They want to get it, I think it's 200 mil. The 99, you're done at 13. You're done at 13 mil. It stops counting at 200. So if you want to pure max, like truly max, it's 200 mil XP. This method, I think the best methods will probably get you 100, 200,000 XP an hour. So think about how many hours that is that you have to be playing. And these methods, depending on the method, you know, it could be slower than that, and it could require less attention than like you fucking nerd necking or whatever. But that'll make it slower. That'll make it take longer.
200.
It's a 200 mil. It's a long grind. 200
million. That means they have to do this an additional 235,000 times.
And people have. I think I actually in college did a data visualization project on RuneScape stats. I don't think I'd be able to find it. I also don't think I could show it because of like academic integrity shit. But I did it, and I compared the amount of players to the amount at 99 to the amount of max. And it's like, depending on the skill, I mean, I think cooking is the highest 99. Oh, and I compared the percentages to the active players. So I had the numbers, and I had like this percentage of the active player base has 99. It was a little bit over counted just because of the way that I did it, but we were at, I think, 10,000 people maybe that have done that. So it's a lot of people actually that have spent hours of their lives running 235,770 laps on the Ardoin rooftop.
All I'm saying is we
A
shouldn't be
lot of
surprised that the guy
laps.
who's gotten 200 million agility 6 times is mentally ill.
I didn't know there was a dude who did it 6 fucking times.
This is an extreme example, but it is truly an aspect of the game that most players would never want to see changed. For them, it's core to the game.
And there's a big I suffered, so you gotta suffer. You know, it's almost like hazing. They removed something from the game a while ago. It was called favor, and people were pissed about it, man, because you know I had to grind this favor out. You have to do it to get your quest cape, and that's a pretty like, I would say it's a staple accomplishment. Most people are striving for it. It's pretty reachable. I have a quest cape. I wouldn't say it was that hard, but man,
Like somewhat recently, one of the most important items, the Dragon Warhammer, had its drop rate changed from
and people were pissed about this. People didn't like that. And now people are mad that the economy's changing and people want to use other weapons and shit too.
1 in 5,000 to 1 in 3,000. This is obviously a big change, making it almost twice as likely to drop, but also keeps it pretty rare. This change, though, was extremely controversial. It was
Yup.
so controversial that when I tweeted
Yeah.
in support of it, I got called the R slur. Rip.
Yeah, people are very mad. And I think there's a lot of animosity towards the Iron Man. I'm more of a main guy, you know, it's just more fun for me. But the Iron Men do a lot of bitching about the drop rates because they need the drops from the drop rates. So, you know, if you're an endgame Iron Man, you're sitting there fucking, you know, you're doing the same thing as the endgame mains, except they get money and can use all the good weapons whenever they want, and you are just waiting for your Tebow still.
Repeatedly. To be fair, that was on Twitter, but
That's honestly one of the biggest things that I see as like the reason that people will de-iron. They reach a point where they know the content that they have to do and they've played it a lot and they aren't having fun, and or like they'll be trying to go for Jad Helm, you know, they'll be trying to go for GM and they'll just be like, why, like I can do this now and buy the items I need off the GE and then grind for the RNG I need to get the speed tasks or whatever. Why would I make this take longer by then throwing more RNG in front of it so that I can guarantee I get like, the people doing this need the best drops in the game, but they're also really passionate about the game, so they're very vocal.
sentiment of a lot of players is still that these long grinds should be left the way they are. And that might sound weird to people who are outside the game. I mean, the grindiness of RuneScape is often cited as a big turnoff to the game. But honestly, I think I get it. There's the obvious fact that a long grind means a big payoff. When you invest a lot of time into something and you finally achieve that goal, whether it's a drop or just an amount of XP, you've earned it. And feeling like you earned something feels good. I have gone many times over the drop rate several times in this game, and the excitement about finally seeing a drop.
Dude, he's playing chiptune Boulevard of Broken Dreams. That's a fucking deep cut, bro. Chiptune Boulevard of Broken Dreams, barely audible in the background of the YouTube video.
Amount of XP, you've earned it. And feeling like you earned something feels good. I have gone many times over the drop rate several times in this game, and the excitement about finally seeing a drop that I've waited so long for is unmatched.
I don't know if that feels better than spooning the fuck out of a drop that you really want. Like getting one after you go double, I think feels worse than getting one when you're like halfway to the drop rate or whatever. If you spoon it too early, then it like is ass. But there's a sweet spot, you know.
But I think there's something else to these grinds too. When I look at what newer players told me they liked about the game, it lined up with what I and a lot.
Also, the fact that it's a great second monitor game where you can just watch something on the side or literally play another game while doing stuff on RuneScape. I do that all the time. Got turned onto it by some of the PoE community streamers. Pox, Zazarian, I don't know them. and fell in love instantly. As a big ARPG fan, it's the perfect game to play during lulls in seasons or even on a second monitor if AFK skilling. Number go up. Number go up it's now been cited in the video. We love number go up here. We're number go up's biggest fan. If you're watching the video, please drop a like, please subscribe, come over and follow me on Twitch so I can see number go up and I can feel better. Stayed for the incredible depth, fantastic quests, and world. Wider range of activities, from active through low attention to fully AFK. So much content to do. It's a perfect forever game for me. And that's the other thing. This game is a forever game. It is an uncompletable game. But I think for most of us, that is a thing that they like about it, you know? I like that there isn't someone out there who's completed the collection log. And the people that are within 10 slots of it are, you know, still hundreds of hours away. I like it, maybe thousands of hours away. But I like it for that reason. It's not a game that's meant to be completed. It is a game that is meant to be experienced. And I think some game devs would rather make content that you have to play. You know, if they're going to make a game, everything that they made, that they spent time and effort on, you have to experience. RuneScape is the opposite. You can play whatever parts of it you want, and you can ignore everything else. If you just want to do AFK second monitor activities and you never want to engage with combat, you never want to do anything like that, you can literally sit at shooting stars for 100 hours. You can get the gems from shooting stars. If you want to just flip, if you want to use this game as a stock market simulator, you might need some intimate knowledge of the game in order to do that, but you can play it in that way and never do anything else. They don't need you to experience everything in the game. And I think that that's a really, really, really big benefit.
A lot of other veterans like about it, whether we realize it or not. RuneScape is a comfort game. You can pop open a Netflix show or a YouTube series on one monitor while you cut trees or kill a boss or do some quests in RuneScape. Maybe you could watch some anime like Oraimo with episode 1 called My Little Sister Can't Be My Love, or episode 3 called
Okay, wait. Listen, I have it on the Steam Deck. You probably can't see it because it's green. Yeah, I have it on the Steam Deck. I didn't put that in there. That was Idyl. He added his own. He added his own to the video.
My Little Sister Can't Be This Cute, or episode 6, My Childhood Friend Can't Be This Cute. Okay, I guess that one's a pretty normal title. Either way,
oh yeah, that one's
the
honestly
grinds in
fine. I
this
didn't even
game
think about it.
can be really relaxing and pretty passive, allowing you to get the joy of progressing while not having to pour.
It's also crazy to razz anime in a fucking 22-minute long RuneScape think piece. You're really gonna come after anime? I'm sure he probably likes anime himself, but like, come on, you're punching up. If we're being honest, punching from the RuneScape people shitting on the anime community is fucking. We're punching up. You gotta do it monkey style, man. You gotta shit in your hand and fling it at them, cause we're below them for sure, man. For sure.
All of your focus into the game. Sure, other MMORPGs have moments like this. Fishing in World of Warcraft, for example, is a nice bit of downtime, but it's much more central to old school RuneScape. It almost paradoxically makes this high investment game really casual friendly. But as you continue working on your character in these simple, pretty passive ways, you'll unlock the ability to do much more active content that does require your full attention and can really force you to put your skills to the test. It might be getting your first fire cape, a rite of passage for any new RuneScape player, or
so good, man. Getting your fire cape feels fucking amazing.
down the road, it might be learning how to 6-0 range bandos on your Iron
I can't
Man,
do that.
requires
I don't know how to
insane
do
timing
that.
and skill, which is why I'm so good at. Oops, I'm dead. Let's
Yeah, at least he can't do it either.
just be clear that I did get a kill right after I filmed this clip. There's the kill. So any haters, I don't want to hear it.
Okay, I stand corrected. I stand corrected. My apologies.
This game provides you the ability to balance how you want to play it. You can take it as easy as you want, or you can go full focus and squeeze out every bit of efficiency there is, not just with boss content, but even with skilling content. You play how you want because this game is a comfort game, and like I said at the beginning, there's no other game like it. Every MMORPG has its grinds and its warts, but none of them embrace those aspects like old school RuneScape does. No other game would keep the graphics it had in 2007 for the next decade of its existence while things constantly get updated around it.
Except for Minecraft, which will do that. Minecraft's graphics will probably look like that forever. I know that they've been updated slightly, I know, but it will be a block game forever.
No other community would make sure the sound that nail beasts make stays exactly the same, even though it's literally ear-piercing. Jesus, God. God. No other game would do those things. But that's the last thing that makes this game so special. Its identity, and the ridiculous commitment the developers and community have to it. Old School RuneScape was released on February 22nd, 2013, otherwise known as my birthday. That's weird. Is that the third time I've mentioned my birthday in this video?
So that was foreshadowing.
Crazy. It almost feels like you should write it down or something just so you don't forget. The game was spun up from a backup Jagex headline round of RuneScape back in August 2007, and after a poll that received, honestly, fewer votes than I remember, Jagex agreed to release Old School RuneScape servers. But what's interesting is why people wanted to go back to the way things were in 2007.
It's because they hated RuneScape 3. Because it's ass.
Bruh.
Sure, nostalgia had a part to play in it. That's been talked about enough for one lifetime. But the much more compelling reason, in my opinion, for these old school servers was due to what was going on in RuneScape, which at the time was the only version of RuneScape there was. In the years since 2007, RuneScape received tons of new updates, like 2 new skills, summoning and dungeoneering, a minigame called Mobilizing Armies that was so bad it was eventually removed, and a slew of new content like distractions and diversions, penguin hunting, and more that was meant to be completed on a daily and weekly basis.
Yeah, that's a big thing the OSRS community fucking hates. Is daily content. Any sort of gamification that takes things too far. They don't like, they hate MTX, especially microtransactions. They fucking hate that. That is most people's who played RuneScape 3 and committed to it for a long time. Most people say that that is what got them to stop, is that the microtransactions got so bad and they would invalidate people's drops. Or not drops. They would invalidate people's... I'm tripping, man. They would invalidate people's grinds.
Not all of these additions were strictly bad, but they also didn't necessarily feel like RuneScape to a large portion of the player base. And that's because Jagex was doing what they could to modernize the game. These modernization efforts accumulated in what was one of the most infamous updates in MMO history.
EOC.
The evolution of combat.
Yup. EOC.
The evolution of combat was a total revamp of the extremely simple RuneScape combat system.
You see it down there? I don't know what that is. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works. I don't want to learn how it works, okay? Fuck off. I want to play rock, paper, scissors with a guy in Venezuela while playing a rhythm game. That's what I want.
Changed how monsters worked, added abilities and a hotbar to characters, and for many players, marked the end of their personal journeys on RuneScape. That includes me. From what I've heard, the evolution of combat in a vacuum isn't bad, especially after it was refined into what it is today. It makes combat more active and engaging, even for more low-level encounters. But it undoubtedly changed RuneScape at such a fundamental level that it was no longer RuneScape.
The crazy thing, though, this is not the first time the RuneScape devs did this. The RuneScape devs did this back in fucking the switch from Classic to RS2. But it went over a lot better from Classic to RS2. I don't know why. I'm not educated enough to know why.
it played like a worse version of the dozens of other MMORPGs on the market. So yes, the calls by the community for old school RuneScape servers was them asking to go back in part due to nostalgia, but it was also a desire to get back a game that really was one of a kind. Over a decade later, the combat system in old school RuneScape is basically untouched. The graphics are the same as they were back in 2007. Even new content is intentionally designed to look and feel like old school RuneScape.
To the point where we vote. Everything comes down to the polls, all right? It's like America up in this bitch. We be voting for updates.
Something that sounds stupid, but makes a lot of sense when you see how seamlessly it all fits together. Old school RuneScape gets weekly updates, and it has for basically its entire existence with just a few exceptions. These updates range from bug fixes to new quests to new bosses and maybe entirely new regions. And when you go try out these new pieces of content, you'll be able to tell that it's more modern than what came before it, or at least a higher quality. But you'll be hard-pressed to find anything that doesn't feel like it fits in. Something that doesn't feel old school. This game and its developers know what its identity is, and sure, there's been changes over the course of the decade plus it's been out, that's normal, but it hasn't ever strayed from being what it is. It's a grindy but simple game that you can invest literally tens of thousands of hours into and never be done with. So why is old school RuneScape so popular? Because it's one of a kind.
And it has a good community. Very underrated aspect of old school. Now it has its bad parts, you know, it has the botters, it has the scammers and shit, but the content creators for this game do amazing work. I think most of them deserve more subs. The community, you know, when you go to mini games, for the most part, people are normally cooperative. The only places that I think are super toxic are Wildy, it's the Wildy. I think having a toxic Wildy is better than not having the Wilderness at all. The Wilderness, for anyone who doesn't know, is a PvP zone where if you die, you lose everything that you have with the exception of your 3 most expensive items. Although, if you're the one who initiated the attack, then you lose everything. So it's going to get a little toxic in the Wilderness. There's nothing you can do to counteract that other than take it out, which, as someone who doesn't really like the Wildy all that much, I liked it when I was a kid. I don't care for it that much now. I still think that it's a good addition to the game. Beneficial, you know, it's necessary. So, like, you go to the GE, for the most part, it's people talking. You can go to Wintertodd's kind of bad, but Temperos is decent. You can go to, like, you know, BA. BA is surprising, because I hate BA, but you very rarely will have a bad experience there, especially if you're the one making your group.
And it knows that. And I'm gonna go to sleep now. Good night. Hey, you're a patron.
That was a good video, man. I already liked it, so I'm not gonna like it again, but it was a good video.